Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. What is the best champion in Paladins? Well, it's a very difficult question to answer. If we're talking in terms of the meta, then there are a lot of champions who are simply better in certain situations than there are in others, and no champion is perfect. Also, there are different classes in the game, and so, while you might be able to say one champion is the best support, that best support certainly isn't the best tank nor the best damage champion, and so it's just really hard to crown one of those champions as king. But of course, Paladins is a video game, and the primary purpose of all video games is to have fun. That's why we all play them, and that's why we all enjoy them so much. And so perhaps a different metric to determine who the best champion is how fun they are. So what I decided to do was determine who the community's favorite champion is to play. Who, on average, do people find to be the most fun? And that will help us answer who the best champion is. Because if the champion is the most fun to play, then they're probably the best design and probably the best champion in the game, at least in that regard. But before I tell you who the best champion in Paladins is, I want to go over exactly how we got this data and a few shocking moments that we discovered along the way. Now, of course, if we want to accurately determine who the community's favorite champion is, we need a pretty large sample size of Paladins players, because that's how we can make sure that we're getting a pretty accurate result. And so I decided that to get this good sample size, I was going to publish these polls on my community tab on YouTube, because I have almost 50,000 subscribers now, which is a crazy milestone that we're going to reach any day now. And if even just a small fraction of you guys answered my polls, it would still be a number in the few thousands. And since Paladin's player base is, well, it's not exactly the largest, that's a pretty good substantial portion of the community. And so that's exactly what I did. Basically, I posted a community poll every single day where I took the first 5 champions in alphabetical order and put them on the first poll, the second 5 champions on the second poll, and so on and so forth until we reached Z. And then I would take the winners of those polls, put them up against each other, and then take the winners of those polls and put them up against each other in the finals. So we had 3 rounds because, well, that's just how many champions we have in Paladins, enough to do 3 rounds. And each of these polls got around 3,000 to 4,000 votes on average, sometimes around like 2.7k on the low end, but we got a large sample size regardless. And so I want to go over a few kind of upsets on these polls where I thought one champion was easily going to win, but it actually turned out to be another champion. Now, of course, in round 1, there were a lot of polls which simply were really easy to predict. Like the first poll in round 1, for example, we put Androxus up against 4 tanks because a lot of the tanks are at the front of the alphabet, and Androxus easily won that because tanks just aren't very popular in this game, and so it was kind of an easy contest for him, and he made it on to round 2 easily. Now, the second poll was pretty interesting. Bomb King actually got 28% of the vote against Cassie, but he still got beat out by Corvus, which, well, means that he unfortunately doesn't make it into round 2. And for the third poll, something that really surprised me is that Furia absolutely smoked every champion here. Eevee was in second place at 19%, but Drogoz was just absolutely smoked. Fernando absolutely smoked. Dredge, well, I don't think anyone expected him to win, and he went dead last, which is not very surprising. And also, by the way, a little bit later, I will tell you which champion was the biggest loser, so stay tuned for that too, because that is equally as exciting, I would say. Io easily smoked Inara, Imani, Grover, Grok, no surprises there. And when it came to this poll with Genos, Khan, Kinessa, Koga, and Lex, Genos actually pulled ahead pretty far, up to 24% of the vote. He actually dwarfed Kinessa, Koga, and Lex, but Khan still beat him in the end, thankfully. I did not want to see Genos getting to round 2. That would have been, well, weird. Now here's where things get interesting. This was a spicy, spicy poll. Leon, Lilith, Maeve, Makoa, Maldamba, all on the same poll. Lilith, the newest champion, actually in last by a little bit, 1% behind Maldamba. Leon got 19% of the vote, and this right here, major upset. I thought Maeve was going to easily take this poll. As much as I loved Makoa, I didn't think he had it in him to beat Maeve, but he actually ended up winning by 5% of the vote, which is a pretty big deal. I thought there were a ton of Maeve simps in the community still, and that they would have just taken the poll for Makoa, or from Makoa easily, but no. And that was really, really surprising to me. Another surprising one here is actually that Ray got beaten by Rom in round 1 as well. Moji Octavia Pip did not expect them to win, but Rom managed to edge out Ray by 6% of the vote. Pretty spicy. And then we had another really close one in round 1. Sati versus Saris, two huge fan favorites. Personally, I expected Saris to win this one because of how many Saris mains there are in the community, how many people have her above 100, how many people have even gotten her to like mid-hundreds, like 500, 900, crazy levels like that. I totally expected her to win. Even if just by a little bit, it still would have been, perfectly reasonable to me, but Sati actually ended up winning by 4%. So another upset there. Honestly, a lot of these polls in round 1 were really, really surprising to me. Tiberius managed to beat Terminus, Talus, Strix, and Torvald in round 1. Pretty boring. Vatu actually put up a really close fight with Tyra in this poll. We had Tyra, 7, Vatu, Victor, Vivian on the same poll. 9% of people voted for Vivian. Really? But yeah, Vatu, that was a really close call. I am a Tyra enjoyer, but I would have easily given this poll to Vatu, but it was actually a lot closer than I expected. Still, though, he did make it to round 2 just by 3%. Really, really close. And in this poll, Vora, Willow, Yaggroth, Ying, and Xin, the final poll of round 1, Vora absolutely blew it out of the water. This was not even a close fight. And it had Ying in it. Absolutely crazy, crazy fight here. So yeah, Vora absolutely blew it out of the water, made it to round 2 very, very easily. So yeah, for the first poll of round 2, Furia beat Io. What? This was a really, really tight poll. Like, round 2 is really where it started to get, like, super, super interesting, because we're taking the favorites of round 1 and putting them up against each other, and these are some really popular champions. Io, Furia, giga popular. Corvus, a lot of people like to simp for him, but he actually made it in dead last. And Droxus, the poster boy of Paladins. And yeah, Furia managed to beat them all by 4%, leading over Io. I expected Io to win this, and I was actually rather surprised how many Furia players there are in this community who ended up getting her into the final round. And then for the second pull of round 2, well, this one was a little bit easier to predict. We're putting a damage champion up against 3 of the most popular tanks in the game. And as much as I enjoy all of these tanks more than Sati, I know that tank players are just, well, they're not as common as people who enjoy playing DPS and people who enjoy playing Sati. So, well, yeah, she managed to pull ahead and easily win this pull, making it into the finals. And then the last pull is a pretty similar story. We're putting Tiberius and Vatu up against Vora. Now, something surprising for me is Tiberius actually managed to beat Vatu. I rarely see both of these champions, but I figured Vatu would have a little bit more people voting for him because, personally for me, he's much more fun anyways than Tiberius. But no, Tiberius actually beat Vatu by 4%, and then Vora with a whopping 61% of the vote. Vast majority voted for her. This was not even a fair fight. She just obliterated them. Pun intended. And so that brings us to the finals. The final poll to determine the community's favorite champion. In third place, Sati. Only 17% of the vote here with 2.8 thousand votes, so just shy of 3,000 votes. And yeah, she is in dead last. Like, the other two got way more votes than she did, so a very solid third place. And now for the second and first place winners, Furia in second place with 39% of the vote, meaning Vora wins the favorite champion poll by 43%. 4% ahead of Furia. That is absolutely crazy. I did not expect Furia to actually get this close to being the community's favorite champion. She almost beat Vora, and as a matter of fact, in the early rounds, or in the early hours of this poll when people were still voting like crazy, Furia was actually pulling ahead for a little bit in front of Vora, but then Vora managed to get a solid lead, and, well, she is now crowned as the most favorite champion, as according to my YouTube polls, which, well, I mean, we got thousands and thousands of people voting on these. I mean, some of the most popular polls ended up getting like, yeah, almost 4,000 votes. 3.8K, 3.9K on some of these. And while the finals didn't have as many votes, 2.8K is nothing to scoff at. That is still a very large amount of people voting for their favorite champion. And yeah, honestly, I'm a bit surprised. But at the same time, I'm not, because I absolutely love Vora. She is a very fun champion to play. But to see her make it this far is absolutely wild, especially because, well, she doesn't exactly have a lot of skins. Generally, Hi-Rez likes to make skins for their most popular champions. Maeve has far too many skins. Ying, Saris, they got far too many skins, and they're kind of who I thought would make it to the finals, because, well, just the sheer amount of skins, you would think a lot of people would end up playing them, and, well, I mean, Saris is definitely very popular, but she didn't even make it to the finals, which is crazy. But no, Vora. Vora is number one. the most favorite champion here. And she's had one skin on release, the Galactic Conqueror, and she just now, over a year after her release, well over a year after release, in fact, it might have been 2 years at this point, I don't remember, I'll have the date on the screen, is getting her second skin. And in my personal opinion, it's a very mid skin. Some of the things are good about it, like the scythe and the visual effects, but the actual model itself leaves much to be desired, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm really surprised that she doesn't have more cosmetics, that they aren't trying to take more advantage of that, because, well, I mean, even just making it to round 2 proves that they're a pretty popular champion, but making it to round 3 and winning with at least 2.8k people, I mean, at least almost half of these people think Vora is just the coolest champion, the most awesome champion. And yet she has almost nothing? That's crazy. It's absolutely, absolutely crazy. So, yeah, this was a really fun little experiment to try and determine who the best champion is. And also, yeah, we have learned a lot about the community. Like, some champions didn't even make it out of round 1, who I expected might have made it to the finals. Like, oh my gosh, man, how did Saris get stuck in round 1? That just absolutely blew my mind. So, how can we determine who the biggest loser is? Who got the fewest amount of votes overall? Well, for that, we have to go to round 1, and we have to basically take the percentage times the amount of people who voted for them. And I basically did that for every single one of these polls, and actually determined that Lex, out of all of these champions, is the least popular champion in Paladins. So on this poll, he got 3,200 votes, and only got 8% of the vote, which means only 256 people voted for Lex as their favorite champion. Which, is not a lot, and he's actually currently not even in the game right now, because of reasons. God doesn't even like him. So yeah, Lex, unfortunately, is the biggest loser of this contest. Inara also pretty low down there, but 10% of 2.9k is still 290 people voting for her, which is just a little bit more than Lex. Dredge, actually, even though he only got 10% of the votes, still got 10% in a poll with 3.8 thousand votes, so 380 people voting for him. It's just every other champion has slightly more votes than Lex. And so Lex is, unfortunately, tragically speaking, the worst character in Paladins. And you know what? I can kind of see it. He's got high damage output. He's got wall hacks. He's got lifesteal. He's got movement speed. He's really fast. And he's got aimbot. And he can execute people. And his model looks like Play-Doh. But yeah, this has all been really fun and really interesting to see what the community's opinion is on the different champions in the game and who their favorite champions are to play. If any of these results have surprised you, then of course make sure to tell me in the comment section down below, and hey, maybe tell me who your favorite champion is too, if you agree that Vora is generally one of the best champions in Paladins, or if you disagree. Because, well, I mean, even though 43% of people think she's the best, that means that 57% of people don't. So, yeah, absolutely really, really fun little experiment we've done here. If you guys have enjoyed, of course, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload from me. And also make sure to check out the Discord server and the Twitch channel, both of which are linked in the description down below. I stream regularly on Twitch, and you can find a bunch of people to play with and party up on my Discord server. And last but not least, if you want to support me, please consider checking out my Nexus at nexus.gg/AndrewChicken. Here you can buy stuff like the Season Pass, crystals, and even the Ruby Complete Edition if you so choose, and a portion of all the proceeds will go to supporting me and this channel, so I highly recommend you go do that. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.